So when this relationship was ripped out from me, I was suddenly left to deal with myself. And I didn't know myself because for 6 years I had spent this time, you know, investing everything into the relationship.
Or what we had was both the most amazing relationship I've ever been in and the hardest.
There is this ancient indigenous proverb that says, if you don't listen to your body or your soul whisper, one day you will have to hear it scream.
So I worked really hard because I knew that it could be very bad for me if I don't take very good care of myself and do the work, which is how I found you.
Making sure that we're still taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves and validating ourselves while we get into relationships. And this is what prevents us from being attached. Namaste and welcome everybody to episode 2 of the podcast of Turning Wounds to Wisdom. And today we're going to talk about a few beautiful things. We're going to touch on what I believe are the ABCs of turning wounds to wisdom, some of the characteristics you really need to embody to turn wounds into wisdom. I'm going to talk a bit about my personal story, not too much because I'm going to keep covering them in different episodes, but I'm going to talk about one big thing, which is the biggest moment, the big moment of change that got me seriously on this healing journey. So, something that really shocked me on my butt, really, so that I could recognize what I needed to change and evolve. And I'm also going to bring on somebody on this show to be able to hold space for their story, to break it down, to allow them to bring up a challenge they're working through. Who knows? Maybe you're working through a similar challenge right now. Maybe you're going through something and you need some guidance with. And I'm going to take this person and break down their story little by little. And that might give you a lot of guidance on how you can do, the growth and how you can change in your life. So let's get crack-a-lacking, all right? Today's a beautiful, beautiful day out here in Guadalajara. It's actually kind of rainy, so I really like it when it's rainy. I feel like my body just settles down a little bit. It's a little cooler because maybe in a future episode, I'll talk to you about my body type and how from East ancient Indian studies, my body type is one that's very fiery, very dynamic, very active. So the rain kind of keeps me cool, relaxes me a little bit. But it also, in the same way, understanding your body type, and they call them doshas, you can understand what is driving you in your life and where you get nervous system dysregulation, how you get stressed, etc. So many beautiful things to learn from techniques out in the East, out in the West. So today, now, the first thing I want to talk to you about was a bit of my story. Last week, we heard when I spoke to some of my colleagues on here, we heard their stories about where they came from in their lives, some of the major difficulties in their relationships, and what could have been one of their pivotal moments. So in order to change. So for me, when people ask me all the time, they're like, Yats, what was a really pivotal moment in your life that got you to commit to this healing journey, that inspired you enough to want to make the change? Well, the first thing I have to tell you is that I believe we hear and see little signs of when change is required for ourselves, when we're supposed to be doing the healing, when we're supposed to be evolving. But I think we also ignore them because we get so comfortable in our relationships. We get so comfortable in doing things the way we knew how, that even though it's painful, it's easier to stay the same than it is to change. How many of you felt like that before? I mean, that's something for me I notice happening very easily in my life, that even if there's an unconscious, I don't even want to use the word bad habit, but if there was an unconscious pattern, so to speak, or unconscious behavior or unconscious type of relationship that I kept attracting into my life, I would justify it so much just so that I didn't have to give myself the need to change. So I think for me in my own life, in my own patterns, in my relationships, I kept ignoring what was really causing me some of these problems. And I kept thinking to myself that, okay, you know what? Let me just continue like this. One day it's just going to change on its own. The relationship's going to get better. I'll have better connection. You just ignore it. You start focusing on everything in your life. You start taking the relationship for granted. And for me, what really led to the change was I was with someone for 6 years. and we had planned our future together to live in a new country. We had planned to set up a life together. So I'd moved to Canada and I was on my own, right? And she was back in India, where I'm from originally. And the plan was that she would come to join me. And then in the first month, she said, okay, you know what? I'm going to need a little more time. I'm not ready to do it. So I said, okay, I'll give you a little more time. Second month again, she said, okay, I'm going to need a little more time. Then the third, then the fourth. And naturally, I started to become a little more anxious because I was wondering to myself, is this person going to come or not? So I started reaching out and I said, hey, we need to make a decision on this because I've sold my business. I've moved my entire life here. I'm looking at a house to get for all of us. And then at the end of 6 months of her saying, I'm going to come, one day she didn't even call me actually. She sent me a text and said, hey, Yats, I just want to let you know that I am not going to come out there and I don't think we can continue in this relationship. Man, can you imagine that? After being with someone for 6 years, to get a message like that saying, this is over. Just a text, not even an explanation. And when I tried to get an explanation, she was not capable of giving me one. Now, I'm not diving yet into this, in this podcast episode about my patterns and my challenges and what I did that brought us to this point, because trust me, I'm going to need a huge section of an episode just to talk on that. But I'm just talking about what created the change, right? So I was literally in this new country. By the way, I was in Canada, something that's so, unnatural and new for me because it's so cold. There was no sunshine. I was living in a basement suite. I barely had any friends. I moved my entire life and I was alone. So at that point, having this relationship ripped out from me, and there was so little I could do to control it, right? Because we were, I don't even know, like 1,400 miles, I guess. Maybe it's even more. Um, or is it 10,000? Maybe it's 10,000 miles. No, I should Google from Canada to India. Anyway, I was so far away at this point, and I had nothing that I could do about the situation. And I'm going to be really honest here. I got really attached to this person. And in 6 years, naturally, as many of you have been in long relationships, you would know, or even short, intense ones, that you don't just get attached to the person, you start getting attached to your future. You start building a future with this person. You start building an idea of who you want to be, what you can share together. And when you break up, it's not just that you're robbed of all of those like past moments and memories. You feel more robbed about the future. And because in long relationships, what tends to happen when we get attached, that we become so focused on, this relationship, we tend to not focus enough on ourselves, what's going on, how we're moving forward, where our wounds lie, our insecurities, any of that. We tend to ignore all of those things. So when this relationship was ripped out from me, I was suddenly left to deal with myself. And I didn't know myself because for 6 years I had spent this time, you know, investing everything into the relationship. And the first experience I had was a deep, intense discomfort. I was sitting with myself, and the self that I was sitting with at the time was completely broken down, had no self worth, was doubting and criticizing himself, felt like no one would love or value him. So, even more so, my time with myself felt so uncomfortable and ugly. I was like, oh God, why am I spending time with this person? So at that time, the first thing that I did was, if I'm being really honest with you, is that I wanted to end my life because it got to a point where I felt so uncomfortable with myself, with who I was. I got so uncomfortable just living with myself. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so depressed that I did want to kill myself. And I don't really know what it was at that period of time that made me want to cling on for the little bit that I did, but it said, okay, at least get up and start making your bed. At least get up now and brush your teeth. And little by little each day, I started to do more and more. And then I said, okay, you know what, man? I've got to live with myself right now. And I'm making the decision to live with myself. I've decided this. So if I'm going to start living myself, I've got to improve the way I'm living because there was nothing I could do about that previous relationship. No way I could save it. No way I could, dig up everything and come back to what was the cause. What could I do better? Like I had to figure this out on my own. And that was the biggest moment in my entire life. the most pivotal thing I've ever gone through in my entire life that rocked me on my butt, pulled the carpet from under my feet, destroyed my world, so to speak, destroyed the entire exterior of what I created for myself. And in doing that, it made me start to go inwards, to rediscover myself, to start to figure out what do I have to do now. That was probably the most painful experience I've ever had in my entire life. Now I'm going to be more vulnerable and tell you in the next episodes about why I even got to that point, right? I mean, that's what you probably also want to know so that you don't want to repeat this situation happening again. You want to know for yourself, Yats, I know I'm in pain, but I really want to understand what I'm doing that's getting me here so I can change it. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in the next episode. How I even got to that point where I almost wanted to kill myself and what we can take from those moments in order to change. But from that moment, there were some really key things that I discovered. There is this ancient indigenous proverb that says, if you don't listen to your body or your soul whisper, one day you will have to hear it scream. It's one of my most favorite proverbs when it comes to the inner workspace, when it comes to healing, because for most of us in our relationships, especially when we're attached, we ignore the small little red flags that keep coming up. The fact that maybe this person is still very connected and attached to the ex, the fact that this person is emotionally avoidant from day one, but we think that we can change them with our love. The fact that maybe the person I'm getting into a relationship with is very emotionally dysregulated, but I just think relationships are all about like this chaos and this drama because of my own experiences. So we ignore all those red flags based on our old stories, of course, until it gets to a point where it's so dramatic and painful that at that time, when we go to see a counselor or a psychologist or somebody else, we're bringing this whole gamut of pain to the table, and we're like, I didn't see this happening. I remember saying that to my therapist, like, I didn't see this happening. And my therapist was like, I can bet that if I broke down your story, there would have been 20 moments before this one. That gave you the sign that this was not going in the direction of a successful relationship. But you ignored it because you were afraid of being abandoned, afraid of being rejected, afraid of being alone. And that was so true. So when we listen to the smaller signs that are coming up, then we create the ability to notice what's not working for us, what is working naturally. And then we at that point start to collect this information and say, what can I do about it? What can I do to change my life? What can I do to use these moments of challenge or of pain or of difficulty in order to create something differently for myself? So, what I want to tell you really quick right now, and I'll cover this again in the next episode also, is that to have the characteristics of changing wounds to wisdom, to have the skill, to have the ability. Yes, there are a lot of tools. Yes, there's a lot of work and all of that involved. Yes, there's a lot of therapeutic value of what you need to do. But there are three important, very important characteristics, in my opinion. And if you're really keen on turning these old painful experiences and using them as information, using them to learn and understand so that you don't have these experiences again, to use them to evolve and to grow, then there are three very important characteristics that you need to embody. So if you have a book and a pen, I want you to pull these down. And then in future episodes, I'll even talk about some of the tools that I've used, some of the tools that have helped me work through these challenges, these moments, some of the tools that have actually been have taken me to this space of wisdom. These tools that I've learned. One of the best things of being in my position of having been that boy who was in a new country and was like lost and alone is that I got to count on some of the most powerful tools I learned from the East in India, like the ones through yoga, the ones through meditation, the ones through regulating the body. And then when I came to the West, I came to understanding how so many of the tools and the techniques of the mind, the Western psychology, could also help me and benefit me. And that's how I created this gamut or this collection of these two very powerful components of the body and the mind, and the recognition of how by healing within both of these, you can create the ultimate growth for yourself. You can move to the ultimate like healing position for yourself. And you can actually have such a beautiful, loving life. So the three components, the ABCs of turning wounds into wisdom. The A is awareness. This is extremely important because if you are not willing to create the awareness for yourself in any particular situation, you are not going to be able to have the insight into what you need to the healing. So you need to be aware about where you're actually hurt, what is hurting you, and then slowly getting to why it's hurting you. And then as you go deeper, and we go deeper into these podcast episodes, maybe even when I pull up a guest to chat with them, you'll recognize where is this pain really coming from. Because in my experience, I've recognized that the relationships that we're in are really just pulling up the pains from old challenging experiences, and that those things are living in wounds that we've had for so long. So A stands for awareness, B stands for bravery and openness. If you are not willing to change once you have this awareness, if you're not going to create the action needed, if you're not going to be brave enough to want to change your life, you're not going to change your life. If nothing changes, nothing changes. So you have to have a strong sense of bravery and openness. And I say openness because you have to be open to the difficult things that you will dig up for yourselves. So remember, I told you that that girl left me on my butt after 6 years. I had to be open enough to discover why, not just why she did it, but why I may have made her do it. And that was extremely uncomfortable. But that was one of the most essential things I needed for my healing. So when you have that level of openness, you can dig up these wounds that are eating you and have been eating at you for like 20, 30, 40, 50 years without your knowledge. And when you get to discover these and you're open to, okay, what do I need to do to change them? Now you have a plan. Now you can find the right tools. Now you can find the right teacher or the mentor because you're open to wanting to change them. When you're not open to wanting to change them and you're not brave enough to create change and be different, you will repeat these stories until one day they become so painful for you that you will have no choice. And that's what happened to me. But that point is a very disastrous point and a very difficult point. So I would hope you wouldn't get that. And then the C in the characteristics of turning wounds to wisdom is commitment. You must learn to create commitment for yourself. You cannot turn your wounds into your wisdom if you don't have the commitment to change, if you don't create the self discipline, which is really self love, of wanting to have a different life, of wanting to create a different future, if you don't have the commitment to yourself of doing the healing, doing the exercises, watching where your triggers come up, regulating your nervous system, releasing the blocks within yourself, if you don't have that commitment, you will not complete that journey of turning your wounds into your wisdom. So what's so essential for you in turning wounds to wisdom, and I'm going to move into the next section of this call in just a second, is those three ABCs. A, the awareness. B, the bravery and the openness, which you really need to embrace. And C, arguably, I would say maybe the most important one. And you can combine this C, commitment, with also accountability. Staying accountable to yourself, staying accountable to your higher standards. And in future episodes, we'll talk about what are these higher standards? What is this higher self? What is this future self? Why must I invest in my future self and not my past self? And we'll get on to some episodes where we talk about that in a little while. But what I'm going to do right now is I want to help guide, as I told you in the beginning of the episode, I want to help guide some folks who come on here. So if any of you ever want to be on my podcast episodes with me or my team, feel free to always reach out to us so that we can help work through your story, help break down something that you need some support or guidance with, and help show you where in your life, it's really bringing up some challenges. But I'm going to bring up maybe a little guest here on to bring and share her story, and in the hope that that's going to give you a lot of guidance and support. This is one of my favorite things to do. I love talking to people, and I love being able to show them how they can move from the circumstance they're in into the situation or the circumstance they want to be in. And the vibrational level of both of those is absolutely different. So if you guys are still listening and you're still eager and you're still here, I'm going to bring her up right now. And there we go. Welcome, Michelle. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Yats. I can hear you.
Beautiful. I'm so happy you made the time to jump on here and to be able to open up yourself and be vulnerable with everybody here. I think it's going to be a huge benefit, obviously, for you, but also for my whole audience who's listening. So I'm personally very grateful that you came up here to bring your story. So thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good today, better than when we've talked in the last few days, for sure.
Okay, nice. Yeah. Well, now you guys know that I've talked to Michelle in the last few days, obviously, because naturally I had to make sure she was going to be a prime candidate for this episode. But Michelle is someone who's also been through some of the work with the inner Yats, so she naturally understands, some of the base work that we do. So I don't have to teach her everything on the session. I can just help guide her. So Michelle, I wanted to ask you, what is something that you're going through right now in your life that's really challenging? And I want you to be as vulnerable as you can, because your openness is what's going to give guidance for everybody and help them turn their wounds into wisdom as well.
For sure. So I am in my northern sales territory. It is 17 hours from my home as you would drive it. The
Wow.
reason I have this territory is because I met a man that lives up here, and it was
Mm,
to my advantage to take over the territory in addition to my home territory.
wow.
And it allowed me to see him and to work while I was seeing him, and it was really a perfect scenario.
Wow. So
So,
wait, just to check in again, because this is so conversational, you would drive 17 hours up to see him? Is that what you're saying?
well, no, I would fly 2 flights,
Okay.
4-hour drives and 2 flights and rent a car, and then a lot of driving once I'm here.
Wow. That's like
But it
flying to
was,
India.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I'm still within the same province of Canada, so
Oh
it's
my
that's
God.
the scale of Canada. But it was we were only together for 2 years, but sorry, I thought I was going to be good, but
Um,
I thought he was the one, and I don't even
mm,
believe in the one.
um,
So, I broke up with him in July, the hardest breakup I've ever had to do when you have to break up with somebody that you love and don't want to break up with, but recognize that you need to. It's very
mm,
challenging.
yeah.
And so I worked really hard because I knew that it could be very bad for me if I don't take very good care of myself and
Yeah.
do the work, which is how I found you. And I did the gauntlet and just finished it recently and feel really good. Like I've been at home and just
Mhm.
working and living my normal life and feeling like, wow, I feel amazing. I feel like I did pre-meeting him and feel hopeful and good and confident. And then I had to come up here to work and I felt great until the wheels set down on the tarmac and then I crashed pretty hard.
And it
So it's been
reminded
a
you of everything from the past.
mhm.
I can imagine all
Yeah.
those
Well,
rushing
because
back.
whenever I was up here, I was always with him, and he would come with me as I was making my calls, and we would make it an adventure, and I would still get my work done, and it was really
Wow.
fun. And everybody I met up here was because we were together, and it's just my whole life up here was based on
Together.
time with him.
Yeah. Before we move forward, I want to just ask you a few questions around this. Like, how long were you all together then?
Only 2 years.
Okay. It's okay. You don't have to say only, because as I was just saying before this, before you came on, that what matters is how quickly and how intensely our heart connects or attaches to someone, right? It's not
Right.
just the duration of time. Yeah, the
Yeah.
duration of time makes us really familiar, but as you said, you guys built a
Yeah.
life together. Your friends were in common. You would do your like sales work together because he was your companion joining you.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's tough to let go of, to be honest. And I really appreciate you showing up like this and being vulnerable and bringing your truth to the table, because that's what these episodes are about. They're about being honest and vulnerable. So you ended this relationship when?
Um, in July.
In July. So it's only about 6 months till why we're talking, maybe 5 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
you came back, all of those feelings came rushing back, and how did you feel?
Very anxious, very much felt it in my throat. And then I felt like as I've gone through the grief, like I've very much felt it in my head and feeling like my face is really scrunching up, just like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm aging, but just like so much pressure in my
Oh
forehead
yeah.
and like I can't like smooth out my head and stop the
Right.
contractions here. So it's very much in those two locations. And then I carry
Wow.
a lot of anxiety in my stomach, so, like, definitely, like,
Mhm.
the 3 spots of that has all come back, and
Yeah.
since about the 5th week of the gauntlet, which is about a month ago for me now, like, I've all of that stuff has been releasing, and I even feel like when I look in the mirror that my face looks more like
Wow.
my face again.
Good for
Whereas
you.
now I'm
Wow.
here and I'm just like, "Oh, here it is again."
Yeah. But all of that stuff that your body is bringing up, in a way, your body. There's a beautiful, for those of you listening, there's a beautiful book called "The Body Keeps the Score," and it is just the exemplification of everything we learn in the East from when we're kids. That everything you feel or you experience, you can only feel it through your body. For example, when you're happy, you smile, right? You don't. It's not just in your imagination. When you're anxious, it's in your stomach. So it's showing you that every single time that you experience something, your body experiences it. But the more you experience a particular thing, your body saves this information, and it almost stores this as an experience which could be difficult, traumatic, etc. So when you go back to meet someone who you thought you had disconnected with, all of this comes rushing back through the body, trying to ask you to understand it, to release it, and ultimately to heal it. So if I was to ask you, Michelle, if your throat had a voice, and you can even close your eyes right now if you'd like, and you can gently place your hands on your throat. And if your throat had a voice, and this voice is your honest, integral voice, the voice of you, the voice of your inner child, it's what you've experienced and held on to through these last 2, 3 years. It knows you since you were a child, it knows you till right now. And it's trying to speak up to you heavily through this stiffness and this pain. And if it could say something to you, what do you think it would be saying right now?
Just to remember my worth.
Yeah. To remember your worth, to remember that you have a voice for yourself, to remember that you have value for yourself. Remember that
Yeah.
you exist, you breathe, you live, you have a heart, you have feelings, with or without the connection of this person right now, right?
Mhm.
So when you come back to this place, for example, like you did, is there some part of your attachment to this person, to this, not only to the person, to the times you had, right, with this person? Is there some part of that your throat and your body are still asking you to let go of, that you may still
Absolutely.
be holding? Okay. They're still asking you to let go of that attachment. And can I ask you something really honestly? Are you afraid to let go of that attachment? Are you sad to
Yes,
let it go? Why?
both. Sad because he was or what we had was both the most amazing relationship I've ever been in and the hardest. It
Yeah.
was definitely both. Um, Sad to let go of what I thought we were gonna have,
Mm,
right? That projecting to the future, and
yeah.
also just, like, accepting exactly what we did have. I liked what we had, I liked the distance, and then being up
Mhm.
here, and, like, it really worked for my life right now.
Right.
And I thought future too, like, he and I were very much on the same page of what how
Mhm.
we wanted to see the next 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah. And why are you afraid to let that go?
I think the fear is around I haven't quite grasped that I will find
Mm,
it or better. I don't wanna find it the same thing again, I know that,
mhm.
but it just I have a hard time truly believing that I will find that same connection again, the good
Yeah.
part of it.
And that's the key thing. That's what's
Yeah.
really driving the fear of letting things go. And again, for everybody listening, after a relationship ends, naturally there's a grieving period. And there needs to be a grieving period, because the grieving period is what allows us gradually to let go. But sometimes when the intensity of what we're losing is so high, right? And the intensity of that connection is so high, we tend to skip some steps of the grieving period because we don't fully want to let go. And like you said, we don't want to let go because not only, and this is what's so amazing in all my work of discovering it, people, it's not because only of the fact that we valued that so much, but it's more because we're afraid we won't get something better. Isn't that so crazy? That
Hmm.
what keeps us attached to the past is not actually just the past. More importantly, it's the fear of the future. And by doing that, by having such a fear of the future, we stay more attached to our past. And so we just keep reproducing those stories again and again until our future becomes our past. We have the same kind of relationship, or we keep going back to the same kind of person because we think that's the best that we can get.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, now we can go into a deeper stage in here, Michelle. What are some of the things, the beautiful things that you felt when you were with this person?
I felt very connected. I felt very loved.
Okay.
Um, in the initial stages, I felt understood and
Mhm.
heard.
Okay. Yes.
Um, it
You
sounds so
felt.
silly, but it felt like it was, I felt like I'd found the love that I didn't think I was ever going to get.
Mm. And what did that love feel like? It felt warm, felt
Yeah.
safe,
Yeah.
felt like
Absolutely.
it felt like someone who finally recognized you,
Hmm.
right?
As me being me, it really felt like that he saw me and the
Mhm.
openness and honesty
And the
and
vulnerability of who
yeah,
you are.
yeah. Like I
So,
felt like I wasn't hiding anything from him, which is also what we said why we accidentally fell in love as fast
mhm,
as we did because we were so vulnerable with each other. There
right.
was this illusion that because we lived so far apart that
We had to be
whatever.
more vulnerable.
Well, but it was also that we didn't have to be afraid of falling in love or afraid of
Mm,
what the connection was going to be. We could just be ourselves.
right.
And because he said the same thing, and then within 2 months, then he was saying, "I'm falling in love with you, and I don't know what's going on. I don't fall in
Mhm.
love this fast, and
How
how
did
can this
that
be
make you
happening?"
feel, by the way, when he said that to you, when he said those words to you that I'm falling in love with you and I don't normally do this, how did that make
Yeah.
you feel?
Well, to me, it kind of made me laugh because I felt like I knew he was falling in love with me. I wasn't sure if
Mhm.
he knew he was falling in love with me, and I already was like, "Oh yeah, I am too," and I'm not afraid to say it, right? Like,
Right.
yeah, I am too, and it is what it is, and I'm okay with that.
But
And so I,
it probably made you feel really validated that this
uh,
person was in love with you because you knew you were falling in love with him. You thought
yes,
he was probably falling in love with you, but there was some part of him that may not have been acknowledging it. So in
yeah,
that moment where he acknowledged it, you felt validated. You felt
yes,
loved, you felt connected, you felt wanted and deserved,
mhm,
right?
absolutely, yeah,
Now I'm going to ask you a challenging question here, Michelle, especially when you travel, right? Which is right now in this period of time when I think you're on your work visit because you said you're visiting the same area that he was in.
yes,
Especially in those moments, do you find in general that you tend to maybe not give yourself, you've done a lot of the inner work, that you tend to not give yourself a lot of the connection, the love, the value, the appreciation and validation that you may just deserve and need on a regular basis, like most of us human beings? Do you find that sometimes when you travel or you work or you move away on a project, that there's so much else that consumes you that maybe you don't spend as much time on those things?
yes, for sure. Especially this trip, and I've been working so hard, well, all
Yeah.
summer, and then through the course of making sure I'm doing the right things. And then
Mhm.
on this trip, I feel like I'm just trying to stay super busy and people around
Yeah.
me at all times. And it's just like, don't think, don't process,
Yeah.
just stay consumed.
Is the super busyness almost like a little excuse for yourself to think that, okay, if I'm busy and I'm with a lot of people, then I won't have to think of these things and I won't have to feel sad.
Yes, absolutely.
But can I ask you honestly, are they actually that successful? Because if you're feeling what you are right now,
Yeah.
it shows that maybe it's just putting a blanket over them, but not actually letting those feelings and those experiences go.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I knew I was doing that. I was like,
No,
"I
trust
know
me,
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now."
So here's an action plan for you. And for anybody else who's listening who feels like, you know what? I mean, some people have to go, like if you share children, they have to meet their exes pretty often. Some of them meet their exes at their office places often. Some just bump into their exes maybe when they go out for a drink somewhere to bar. Wherever it is, the reason that though that relationship brings up so much feeling is not just like we've just talked about. It's not just because that relationship was beautiful to us. Of course it was. And while it was beautiful, I can promise you that it also blinded some of the things that we should have paid attention to, like how fast we were getting sucked into it. How much was I really protecting and taking care of my own heart and my own needs? How much was I depending on this person to make me feel alive so that now that that person's not there, I'm not feeling very alive for myself. You know, these are all the things we tend to forget. It's like saying, I found myself in a relationship now, so I'm just going to make my partner eat for both of us. Well, that's not going to really work, is it? And
No.
then, you know, on the same token, now when my partner's gone, I've realized that I'm emaciated, I'm skinny, I'm starving, and I'm very unhappy with the way I feel and look. So, what is the solution to making sure that we're still taking care of ourselves and loving ourselves and validating ourselves while we get into relationships? And this is what prevents us from being attached. This is what prevents us from being dependent on the other person for those good feelings. So, Michelle, I'm going to give you a project. Okay.
Okay.
And it's going to involve three different things. And everybody listening, you can do the same thing. The first step was to ask Michelle, what is it that she felt when she was in the highs of those relationships? And the same thing for all of you. When I was in a beautiful place in my relationship or with the person who I loved, who either left me or I left, what were some of the most beautiful feelings I had? Now, I want you all to sit and write down some of those feelings, some of those characteristics, and to not just think about how they gave it to you. That's not what this is going to be about, because you all will probably think, oh, yeah, they made me feel special. They took me to the movies. That's the only way I can get it. No, we're talking about a feeling, not the act. And here's where people get tripped up. That person may have been the one to instigate the feeling. But remember how I started this session? I said the feeling comes from your own body. Your brain tells your body how to feel, so you feel it. They may have instigated it, but you feel it. So now you've written down a list of all the things you felt. The next step is, in my life right now, what can I do to give myself this list of feelings? Now, at first glance, a lot of you who are listening are not going to like this. You're going to be like, well, that sucks. Yats. Why the hell should I give these things to myself? I just want to find someone else who can give it to me. Trust me, I know how beautiful that feels, and that's probably what you want to do. But you also don't want to feel this level of heartbreak. You also don't want to keep feeling resentful in your relationships. And you also don't want to keep feeling at the end of it that you're unworthy, you're unloved, and you are not sure you will find love again. You don't want those feelings. So, to make sure you don't have that, you have to show yourself that you're worthy, that you're loved, that you're valuable. How do you show yourself those things? By giving yourself the same feelings that you wanted from that other person or from that situation. So, step number one is to look at what are all the beautiful feelings I got from this relationship. Step number two is, how can I reproduce these feelings in my life? Now, you can think of what activities you can do, what exercise you can do. If you need to go for like therapy or counseling, those things are really essential also in you finding yourself. But it could be as simple as just sitting down with a cup of tea for yourself in your balcony, taking the time and journaling all the things you appreciated that you did in your day. That's enough for you to feel valued and loved in that moment. It's about when you go out for, let's say, a drink or dinner to meet friends or anyone, dressing up your finest, not for someone else, but for you. Hell, it's about sometimes taking yourself out on that date and dressing up well because you're trying to impress you. When you keep sensing this and feeling this, the you inside will start to feel more loved, more valuable, more worthy. And then that version, here's what's really interesting. that version of you will attract a partner much better than the one you had. You may not even think it's possible, but what you experience right now, the beautiful relationship, and this is true for you as well, Michelle, because I see your beauty. I wish you saw your beauty the way I can see it. But you're seeing your beauty behind the lens of your old stories, behind the lens of your old worth and wounds, behind the lens of your old experiences and what you think you deserve. And that's why you settled for a relationship with someone who you may also have heard. You said it was really good, but it was also really hard during the relationship. Why must it be that hard? Why must it be that strenuous? Why must it be that challenging and fearful? Why must I have this anxiety inside me? That's where I'm settling. That's where I'm telling myself, okay, I have to swallow this pill of pain and difficulty because I don't deserve something better. Here's a question for you, Michelle. The craziest thing about the world is that we're not guaranteed a future, right? That's what gets us anxious. But let's say you were. And 2 years from now, maybe a year and a half from now, I showed you this visual, this movie of you with this loving partner who treats you like a queen, like amazing, takes you out, treats you like a queen at home, makes you feel just so loved and special as you are, just sits next to you reading a book and you just feel so connected. But at the same time, you're feeling like you have a strong sense of like you. And so you never feel small. You never feel like if you lose this, you're lost. It's a beautiful relationship where you feel on top of the world. If I could guarantee this to you in 2 years, would you really spend any time thinking about what you just lost? Or would you instead say, okay, Yats, well, tell me what I need to do now to get ready for this thing. Tell me what I need to do to be prepared so that I can let this into my life. Because if you're showing me this is there, you're guaranteeing it to me, you're telling me it's there, I can see it. All I need to do is to be ready. Okay, I can no longer just like waste my time on this thing. What do I need to do to be ready? Is that not the way you would feel and think?
Well, that's why I did the gauntlet, right? Because I knew that I was just like, this is this is why I need more healing because I don't want to attract a person like that and I don't want to be attracted to a person like that. So then
Yes.
I from your post, that's how I connected
Mhm.
with you is just like I'm missing something. I thought I did. Yeah, I was single for 8 years and thought I'd done all the work I needed to do. Not all the work, but I thought I'd
Right.
gotten myself to a good place. And then I failed. And then I did it again. So but
But that
that's
was
yeah.
things like that are just a reminder and bringing back, it's like a knock on the head that, hey,
Yes.
don't forget about the work. And
Yeah.
sometimes, as I was telling people before, if you don't listen to the whispers, one day you're gonna have to hear it scream. Inner work is like this person waiting outside your door who's knocking slowly and saying, hey, you're gonna let me in so that we can like, work together. And then you just keep ignoring. You're like, shh, let's just keep working. Let's get busy. Let's focus on somebody else. Let's watch TV. Let's do anything else to numb ourselves here. And it knocks louder and louder and louder until one day it just kicks the door down and it's like, oi, I've been trying to reach out to you. Then you got to fix the door. Then you got to do so many things and come backwards.
Yeah.
But this is now the opportunity of awareness to listen to the small things. So, would you agree also, Michelle, that if you were the person who is feeling completely like your heart is wrenched, that I lost the only thing that was beautiful and that I don't know if I can have something amazing in my life. Do you think that version of you would really be attractive to your like life partner or someone who really values you?
No.
Right. So they'd want to see in you what they want to keep in their lives as well. What version of
Yeah.
that would that be, Michelle?
Well, that was that's the version that I feel like I'm getting back to.
Hmm.
This trip seems like just a
Of
setback,
course.
which I recognize, but it's for sure after the call that you did with our group, I started to feel like I'm back to where I was before I met him. That
Mm-hmm.
I love my life. I am ecstatic about my future and I don't need to change anything in my world. I love my job, my friends, my children, it's I was feeling like I'm back to that where I
Yes.
am open to a romantic partner, but I don't need a romantic partner.
Yes, that's beautiful. I'm open to it, but I don't need one. That is the kind of energy you need to keep. And I have seen your progress in itself, and I know that you've journeyed so much. And I think this moment was actually something you invited into your life again as an opportunity to attract the lessons, attract the opportunities to grow, remind you about the tools. So really, excuse me, Really, it's just a reminder. That's what
Mhm.
this whole experience is about. So why don't we take all of this pain, all of this, difficulty we've experienced in this time since we've come here? Let's put this pain in a chair across from us at the table. And instead of diving deep into it and trying to wrestle it, let's say to it, thank you for coming up right now. Thank you for making me feel the way I did right now, because you have been the reminder I need of what's important for me. But because I've got the reminder now, I want to thank you for being there, but I'm going to let you go. And I want you to visualize later in the evening, after you've had this little conversation with that pain, letting that pain just wither away and disintegrate. Because whatever it's meant to have shown you in this trip right now, it's shown you. You've got it. You've learned it.
Mhm.
Now it's about the commitment for it in the future. And that's what I wanted to leave to you for the third step is when you come back here, because you will probably come to travel to this area again. And in time, sure, the intensity of the feelings will drop. But you want to create a protective strategy for your growing and healing heart, for your inner child who's trying to get out of like the pain that they're in. So a protective strategy would be, apart from like, not reaching out to the ex or trying to reinitiate something, it would also be, how can I make myself feel loved on this particular trip more so than on other times? How can you, on this trip, precisely provide yourself a little more love, a little more care, and a little more joy or fun so that you keep living and attracting a higher vibration on this trip, and therefore you don't have the space as much to be sucked into the lower vibration or into the pain and the sadness and the loneliness that you could have. So it's specifically a strategy for this trip. And for those of you listening, specifically a strategy for when you're going to meet your ex or when you're going to get in that situation, which triggers you normally. You need even more care. So let me ask you, Michelle, what are two things you could do the next time you come out on this trip, or even right now? First, to make yourself have more joy on this trip.
Um, well, in the future trips, I will plan to ski, and on the last trip, I was mountain
Nice.
biking. This trip, I
Nice.
didn't plan for any of that. I was just trying to
Mhm,
get in and
mhm,
get out as fast as I could. Well, and it's also
mhm,
November, so I both can't mountain bike or ski right now. But
mhm.
for the next trip, I've already planned time so that I can actually ski and
Yes.
enjoy and embrace and love the trip, not just get in, get out.
Yes, beautiful. And now, knowing the tools that you know, what is another internal thing you can do for yourself to create a little bit of validation, love, and safety for yourself or your inner child? What is something you could do or say to yourself when you have time or when you have space and maybe there are thoughts coming into your mind?
So one of the things I've been doing is just reiterating what is that I'd like in a partner and
Mm,
what I deserve.
mhm.
Would that be the
Yes.
right?
But more importantly, that would also be dangerous on this trip because if you're coming onto it, it's like the opposites, right? You're coming onto this trip where your last partner was someone that you were attached to and you had and hold a lot of pain to. And this word attachment is key because the attachments would bring out the memories. If you try and focus on the word partner, again, in a different format while you're in this situation, it may not work. It might actually trigger you again because then it'll remind you, oh, but I had one and I lost one. I don't know if I'll have one.
Right,
So that's why I said, instead of focusing on the external, go
right.
internal. What do you think your inner child would want to hear from you in these moments? And you've done some inner child work. So in the moment when you're
Mhm.
feeling really sad or lonely, you can close your eyes if you'd like. I like closing my eyes to visualize this. If you're feeling sad or lonely or not wanted, and your inner child is really the person who's experiencing and feeling that, what could you say to that little loving being to change the way they feel?
Reassurance.
Okay. Give me some words. What would you say to them?
Lately, it's been a lot about like like I got your back, girl. Like we're not gonna end up in a
Nice.
relationship like that again.
Okay. So put your hand on your heart. That sounds very protective. Like you're saying to a little child that I've got you. I'm holding you. I'm protecting you. I'm not going to let you get into a situation like that again. Right? Why am I not going to let you get into a situation like that again? Is it because you're important to me?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I want you to
Because
see it.
you're important and you deserve better.
Yeah. And because you're beautiful and you have such a sweet energy and such a big, beautiful heart and such a kindness and a joy and such strong, loving emotions that someone one day will want to dance with. But I'm going to love you and value you because of all of those things, right?
Yeah.
So, what is one closing thing you can say to your inner child before you let her go right now?
That she is enough.
Yes, that she's enough just as she is, which
Yeah.
means which means she doesn't need a partner. She doesn't need to think of a future partner and not. She's enough right now.
Yeah.
And if I keep remembering that, if she keeps remembering that, partners will come in plenty, in so much, and they'll bring plenty of love. But she needs to keep remembering that she's enough. Yes?
Yes, she is enough.
Okay. Now, with the eyes closed, let's do one last thing together. Let's take a nice big deep breath in through our nose. Biggest one you've taken all day. Hold it right at the top and let it out with a big sigh. There you go. How do you feel now, Michelle?
Good. I feel really good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Did you enjoy this?
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, Yats.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that you came on here because I know there are so many people who would have gone through what you've gone through and still are. And I think they could have learned from our little interaction that we just had. So I'm going to
I
thank
hope
you,
so.
Michelle. Thank you for being on here. And I hope to speak to you again soon sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Beautiful. Bye,
All
Michelle.
right.
Bye.
Goodbye.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed that interaction with Michelle. It was really beautiful. And she was so honest and vulnerable to even show her tears and her expression and her feeling. And it also just goes to show you that even when you're doing the work, sometimes these things come back. Sometimes these memories, these moments come back to you. Sometimes you go through something that triggers everything and it all flies back. But what's important in that moment is not to shame yourself, judge yourself, or try to run away. What's important in that moment is to go back to what you know makes you feel a little better, soothes you, relaxes your heart, releases those emotions, where you can start to show up for yourself internally so that you don't have this dependence externally. And as I talked to you before, those ABCs are so important in these moments. The awareness of, okay, why is it I'm really hurting? One of the most beautiful things I heard her say was not that she was just afraid of losing this man, but that she was afraid of losing this man because she was afraid she may not have had that beautiful love in the future. That's really what's tripping us up all the time. It's not just the memories of the past. Those will be just memories. In fact, in that case, if we knew we'd have beautiful love in the future, we'd appreciate the past even more. We'd say, thank you for getting me here and making me who I am so I can get what I can in the future. But when we're afraid we won't get in the future, we keep staying attached and reminding us of the past. And then she's getting into the bravery and the openness of, okay, what do I need to do? What are the exercises? What are the things I need to try? The fact that you need to change instead of just sitting and staying attached to that past memory and that past person. But the most important thing that's going to make a difference for Michelle, for you, for all of us listening, is the commitment. Am I going to commit to doing the work? Am I going to commit to giving myself those same feelings that I used to get from the relationship? Am I going to commit to showing myself my own value and worth on the day to day? And am I going to commit to having a better protective mechanism when I know I get into moments of vulnerability? That's what's really important for us in our healing and our growth journey. So, on the next episode, I'm going to be talking to you more about my story, more about my wounds, what I actually got into as coping mechanisms and how I used them, and what my big story was that actually got to the end of that relationship I talked to you about. And we may have some guests again that I'll break down their stories with you guys and allow for more openness and understanding and where we can all use some healing to have a better life, to have better, more abundant futures. And just listen to this one thing I have to say. You deserve a beautiful, loving future. You deserve not just the amazing partner, you deserve the money, you deserve the happiness, you deserve the joy. Don't let your attachment to your old experiences dictate how you create your new ones. With that, I'm going to say I love you all, and I will see you all on the next episode of Turning Wounds into Wisdom. So excited. It's going to be some beautiful ones coming up. I'm going to cram as many episodes as I can for you guys because I'm getting married next month. So I'm not sure where I'll have the time just in and around that period. So I'm going to create these episodes for you. Really excited. I hope you really enjoy them. If you enjoy them, share them with your friends as always, because there's so much that we can give to other people around us. And if they start growing and healing, then we start to enjoy a better life with them, around them, and everything. So what a beautiful world that would be. Love you all. Hope you have a beautiful, beautiful week. I'll see you on the next episode.